Live from the Valley, it's your host, former Miss USA, Nia Sanchez.
Hey, baby. Okay, welcome to the Hold My Crown podcast, where we dive into life, pageants, reality TV, parenting, and so much more. Join us for special guests from your favorite reality shows and some of my very good friends, other beauty queens. This is Hold My Crown.
Hold my crown.
Hello. Welcome back to the Hold My Crown podcast. I am very excited because I have a special guest today, Melissa Marty. I'm going to tell you all about who she is, but welcome, Melissa.
Hi, I'm excited to be here, honey. It's interesting because we saw this all like from the get-go.
Before it started.
Before it was born.
Yes.
Picking pictures, the name, all the thing. And it's beautiful to see you here.
Thank you.
Shining always.
And it's kind of tying in because the title is Hold My Crown, and we are talking about pageants today.
Mm-hmm. And we both have crowns.
And we both have crowns. Yes, we do. So, Melissa, I'll give you a little mini intro. I'm going to do a longer intro next time she's a guest because there is so much to Melissa and your life and your story that is so inspirational. We're going to do more of like the pageant side of things today. So, Melissa competed at Miss Puerto Rico Universo. Is that how you say it?
Miss Universe Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yes.
I tried. In 2000 for the 2008 competition.
Mm-hmm.
After that, and she placed and did amazing because
I placed top
obviously-
12.
Oh, hey, girl.
Was that? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then she competed for Nuestra Belleza Latina.
Yes.
Ooh, I'm trying my Spanish today.
For Nuestra Belleza Latina, that actually your Miss Venezuela at Universe also won a couple years after.
So you
me.
guys are sister
So
queens.
We're sister queens.
I love that. And so you won. And with that, you received a contract
to work as a host on Univision Network for 3 years. And I did practically all their entertainment shows. I was there for 3 full years. I ended up having my own show on Galavision. They're like local cable channel.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. I got to interview a lot of artists, do a lot of red carpet interviews, and it was a blast.
The dream. And then Melissa moved out to LA. She has been pursuing and achieving her dreams being an actress. It's been so fun to watch the journey of like booking small things and booking commercials to like movies and these huge. I'm like, I can turn on the TV and watch Melissa. It's incredible. So
and
I love
it's still
seeing
an
it.
ongoing thing. But
Always.
yeah, it's been a beautiful, slow and steady journey. I think that's
Steady.
I think that's
been
the
steady.
trick
Yeah.
of like when you move out here. This is such an intimidating city that to like think that you're gonna make it or that it's gonna happen quickly is somewhat naive. So just the slow and steady growth is always best.
We're going to talk about all that in our next episode
time.
together because I feel like you have like the formula. There's not one specific path for any person, but you haven't given up and your dreams have come true and you still have more dreams to achieve and you're working towards them.
Yes.
So it's like we can talk about all that another time. Quickly before we get into all things Miss Universe, which is why probably everybody listening and watching is here. I think it'd be fun to just say how we met because I feel like it was a bit happenstance, but meant to be. So what's your version of memory of how we met?
Well, I knew of you, and I had seen you at church, and I had seen you. We used to go to the same gym. We used to live really close together.
Yep.
This is before Nia became a mommy and moved farther away.
To the valley.
To the valley. But I remember seeing you one day at the gym. I was like in the aerobics room doing my Peloton class on a phone, and I told myself, I was like, if she walks into the room, I'm going to say hi. Like, if she walks into the aerobics room, I'm going to say hi. And I was like doing my class. She came up to the door and I was like, ooh, and then she left. And I was like, okay, maybe it's not meant to. Then you walked in and I remember going, excuse me. And I was like on my bike. I was like, excuse me, hi, you're Nia, right? And it was funny because as pageant girls, we turn on. Like there's a turn on that happens,
like, oh,
right?
hello.
You're like, oh, she knows me from pageant. And I was like, no. No. I was like, I'm a pageant girl too. I know your friend Susie. And
Susie Castillo, Miss USA 2005
I don't
or
remember.
3.
Yeah.
One of those years.
Also Puerto Rican. And I was like, I know Susie and I think we have a lot in common. I've seen you at church and I think we should be friends.
Yeah, I love that. I think we should be friends. And it's hard to make new friends
Yeah.
as an adult woman.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really hard, but I was like, okay.
I knew you had done, well, not kickboxing, but taekwondo. And I did kickboxing. So we just had a lot of things in common, the pageants.
Yeah.
I was like, and then you invited me to your Bible study.
Yeah, and that's where it all
And
kind
I'd
of
never
started.
done that. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll go.
Yeah, and from there, we were seeing each other every week at Bible study, and then realized that we both truly, deeply have like a love for pageantry.
Yeah.
We've watched lots of pageants together, Miss USA and Miss Universe pageants, and even though we were not together at this Miss Universe, you were in Oregon.
I was in Oregon watching at a sports bar.
Yes.
Like trying to figure out how to get it on my phone to be able to see it.
Yeah. And I was
we were
watching at
texting.
home being like, what'd they say? Like, translate for me. Not understanding. And I think I was a little behind at one point. Then I told you when I caught up.
Yeah.
But we were texting. So we are going to tell you all of our thoughts today.
And the
all about
last
Miss
time I
Universe.
did this, I got in trouble. It was in your living room.
Yep.
It was Susie, you and I.
Mhm.
And I got heat for this. So
I know.
see.
The pageant fans can be a little
Intense.
intense. That's
But
the right word.
that's pageantry.
It is.
Like I think pageantry in its entirety is intense.
It is, yes. Okay. So let's talk about Miss Universe 2024.
Mhm.
We're going to start kind of even before finals. I want to know, do you have any quick thoughts on prelims before we get into finals?
I actually didn't watch the prelims.
Okay.
All I saw was what was like, showcased on Instagram and
Right.
on socials. I always keep an eye out for Puerto Rico.
Yes.
This year, Puerto Rico was a mom or is a mom of 3.
Oh, wow.
So she lived in Mexico, was married to a very famous Mexican artist, the son of a very famous Mexican artist. And so she had clout, and she's very well spoken. So everybody had our eyes on her. I remember I liked her dresses. I remember Dominican Republic caught my eye. I saw her and I was like, ooh, she's fire.
Yes, she got my eye from the beginning too.
And the director of Dominican Republic was my director when I competed in Puerto Rico.
Oh.
Magali Febles. Yeah, she was
Okay.
the director when I did that. So, I always keep an eye out for the Latinas.
Yes, of course.
They're the strong,
They always
consecutive
come ready.
ones that come. Yeah. But going into finals, I was like, it's anybody's game. I remember telling you, like, why are there 30 finalists like that?
Right. 30 finalists because there were so many contestants. Usually there's, I don't know, anywhere from 75 to like 90.
There's 125.
125 contestants. I think it started out with 130. Some girls left the competition. I know South Africa did not end up competing.
Yeah.
Other countries as well. But so it ended up being 125. And so
Which is a huge number.
it's a huge number. So I'm all for 30 girls being able to say, like, I was a semifinalist at Miss Universe.
Right.
Absolutely. For prelims, I'm not trying to use such strong words like hate, but I extremely disliked that there was no evening gown walk.
Oh, really?
They literally lined up girls in like groups of 5, and then they would say like USA, and she would just like shift
In their gowns.
in their gown, but there was no walk. They
It's-
lined up in a straight line, and then they just said like Venezuela.
Yeah. It's funny because that's a time thing. I mean,
I know.
having been in production and like you've been on shows like that, it does them a disservice, but it's definitely a we have whatever amount of time
Just make
for
it a
this
short
show.
walk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's-
I would have preferred just a short, like maybe they get the girls going way quicker. Venezuela, she gets like 15 steps
And then
turns,
the
and the
next
next
one comes
girl.
out. Yeah.
Because these gowns
Yeah.
are $10, $15, $20, $30,000 gowns that they get half a second to like shimmy on stage. And
yeah, and
that's
it's not nearly enough to like showcase your elegance
your
or showcase
presence.
like because there is a very massive shift between like the bathing suit walk, the opening number, and what you're supposed to portray in evening gown.
Yeah.
It's extremely different.
Absolutely.
So not having the opportunity to, I guess, like showcase all of it, sucks for them.
It does. And then one other little thought, the camera quality was in prelim specifically, like when they would zoom into the girl, the camera would like tilt side to side
Oh.
and then kind of even out. And maybe they were trying to do something cool, but it did not look
It didn't
cool.
work.
It was not working.
Yeah.
So I was overall disappointed in the overall production of prelims. And I do feel like finals ended up getting a little bit better. So I was happy about that. So I think we should in just a minute after a quick break, transition into all of our thoughts on the official final night of Miss Universe 2024. We'll be talking about the top 30, top 12, top 5. All of it. Who was missing? Who should? All of it. So quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back from the break. We are ready to dive into Miss Universe 2024. So you watched it on your phone.
I watched it on my phone.
Yes. What were your overall thoughts on like the stage, the production, just the hosts overall?
So, I mean, the hosts are great. One thing that did catch my eye was that I felt like the cues were coming in late. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this, even for the girls while they were like presenting themselves and saying their country, which on that note, I always like to hear their names, their age, and their country the way that it used to be. Like Melissa Marty, so-and-so age, Puerto Rico, like if that were the case.
Yeah.
I did not like them just having to scream their country because I feel like when you're saying your name, it's like a slow buildup into like, and I'm this country, instead of like, Azerbaijan, you know, like.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, there's a buildup that
too.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I was like looking at it and I reviewed it again last night and I was like, and that's always the thing with pageants where like people make fun of like these girls screaming out their country's names. And it's just, it is funny, but it's also, there's so much excitement that I feel like when you have the opportunity to like say your name and your age, you kind of build up to
there's a really good point.
And that to me was missing. Again, like them coming in on time, I felt like they were just like waiting. And poor girl, I don't remember what her country was, the one that went right after Mexico. Like you were in Mexico, and Mexico got like a cheer, you know, like, and they were not stopping. So this poor girl was like standing there, like just waiting waiting for the crowd to calm down. And I was like, girl, just go.
You gotta go. But also it's hard. So I really like your point. Because me having the opportunity to say,
you were on that stage.
Nia Sanchez, 24, USA. Like, it's a whole thing.
It's a buildup.
I do miss that. I do feel like Chile, like, she's saying her name. She wasn't even like, I get the excitement because it is funny to hear everybody go, like, their name and scream it, like, Puerto Rico. And just, like, it never ends. But if you're in the room, the energy is different. So, like, you get it when you're in the room.
Yeah.
I do feel like Chile literally, like, belted out.
But she's a singer.
Is she?
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go.
Chile is a very, very good singer. And I heard, I heard that's why, because one of my good friends was a judge on the panel, Jessica Carrillo. She works for Telemundo, aquí ahora host. And I was talking to her like 2 days ago and she told me that. She's like, oh my God, Chile was the most amazing singer. Any opportunity she had, she was like opening her mouth and like belting and singing. So I think that's why. I do think, and I don't know that, do these girls get like any kind of like, I don't know, like trainings or seminars for different things while you're there?
Like what?
Or is it just events? Like, do they give them like public speaking seminars or like?
Sometimes they do. I don't know what they did this year, but they have had many things like confidence workshops and they've had like other things like that.
I think a really good workshop that should be implemented at the Miss Universe is a voice. A voice coaching session where they learn how to modulate their voice in the correct way.
Oh, yeah.
So that doesn't happen where they're like, and it just like cracks, you know? Because there's ways. There's ways that you can like, there's ways that you can learn how to use your voice and project without having it crack, you know?
What country was that?
Oh, I was saying Paris.
Oh.
But as they say it, it sounds Paris. It does. But people have a blast with that, and then they all become memes, and it's
it is fun.
A whole thing.
Yes.
The other thing that I felt, and again, because there was so many countries, and there haven't been so many countries in such a long time, that opening number, they were all dressed in white. It was, I think, in some ways like an ode to the charro mexicano, like their wardrobe. It was too many. It was too many people on stage.
It was too many people on stage, and
it tends to look messy.
It looked messy to me. It was the outfits were like beautiful, but there was too much going on. And so it was distracting and looked messy. And I do think there was too many people on stage. You have groups. You have a group of 50 and they do like clean choreography.
Yes. And it hurts because
and
the
then
guy
you rotate.
The guy that was the choreographer, Danny Lugo, also Puerto Rican. He did a lot of he worked with Luis Fonsi when he was coming up, and like he's worked with a lot of big name artists. He's a great dancer, great choreographer. But unfortunately, when there are so many girls on a stage and they're all tall, thin, you know, dressed kind of the same, it's really hard to like get the arms all in the exact
100%.
line and like to keep those lines clean. And obviously they're walking.
And
there's
not
a lot of
everybody
legs
is a
moving.
dancer.
Right.
So
keeping it to like smaller groups, I think would have been really helpful.
It would have helped it look better. I do think the whole overall like opening production, how huge it was, and there was all the performers like
the mariachis
in the aisles and like on stage. It was really, I imagined being there, and the energy in the room must have been so electric.
Yes, I agree.
And I do wish I was there. It would have been so much fun. But you know,
another thing that I noticed in those openings, Nia, was I don't think that there had been before. And when I want to be very careful when I say this, like, right, because there was diversity in beauty, and by that I mean, for example, Miss Egypt had vitiligo, which is that
vitiligo in English.
There, vitiligo, the skin depigmentation, and to see a girl like that with that condition on stage was so beautiful.
I thought it was
to
beautiful.
me.
Yeah,
because it gives. I think all these pageants and pageants in general in places are an opportunity for young girls to see themselves represented, and to have that. I was like, wow, that to me was like pushing the needle forward a little bit. And I also saw that Philippines was black, and that to me, it caught my eye because normally Asians are very light skinned, and I noticed that both Venezuela and Argentina had noticeable tattoos that they did not cover.
I noticed that too. And I was like, wow. And their team did not tell them to cover it, because easily your team could say, put a little makeup on it.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And they
Which was a thing before. Like,
of course.
You wouldn't
always.
go on. Yeah. You wouldn't go on stage. Venezuela had a tattoo right here, and Argentina had a tattoo on her hip. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I did love the diversity and representation. There was also a curvier contestant as well.
A couple.
A few, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one that like stood that I know was making more headlines. But yeah, so I love to see the diversity, and I love to see the new countries.
Yes.
Macau, I don't know if it's ever competed.
I don't either.
Yeah,
and when it came out, I was like, where is
decades.
this country? Like,
same with Cuba, decades.
Yes. And there was a couple that for the first time even advanced. I had noted it was Cuba, Egypt, Macau, and Cambodia. They'd never advanced.
Really? Incredible.
It was their first time ever placing like in the finalists.
Yeah. And so it was fun to see that happening. And then I also loved just with like the hosts. I love Olivia Culpo and I love Mario Lopez. I feel like they were so great together. They looked good together hosting on stage. Like they just visually were great hosts. They did really well. And then I loved Mario Lopez. I feel like when he's in the U.S., hosting in the U.S., he's just very like, I am an American host. And so it was fun to like see him be able to pull out like his Spanish and just like really own that side of who he is. That's his identity.
Right.
So I loved it. Like if it was Olivia saying Mexico, it would have been like Mexico. So it was fun to see him just like, you know, be in Mexico.
And that is the beautiful thing of like embracing your culture and getting to do these things in different countries to where the one girl is the host, but also everybody else that like, and pageants are so big within Latino communities and Hispanic communities, you know, so it's really cool.
It was great. Alrighty, let's move on to top 30 overall kind of thoughts. And like, if there was anybody missing, I'm going to start off with, I was 100% shocked that USA didn't make it. So shocked that Alma did not make it, because I know who she is and I know how she shows up. Like, it's one of those things where it's like Philippines, they're never going to show up and have a bad interview.
Right.
Venezuela's never going to show up unprepared.
Exactly.
Same with USA. She was a student at Stanford, is in the U.S. Army. She is an incredible woman with so many talents and accomplishments. And because she's so teeny, I actually didn't realize she was so tall. She's also tall. She has this presence. I saw her every single day on social media.
Yeah.
Show up at 100. And I know that I literally could not show up at 100 for as long as she did. Like, there was days where I just felt off. She did not look off a single day. And she had energy every day. Like, it's exhausting sometimes with the fans are constantly pulling from you, like wanting your energy. She never showed like a crack, at least in front of cameras. And I know she interviewed well. So I was just like, and I think it's been, I don't want to quote the exact amount of years, but it's been since Rima Fakih that we haven't had a title holder place in the top at Miss Universe. So it's like the streak was broken. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. I feel, again, that when there are so many girls and so many like first timers that are there, like, you know, that's a different kind of energy when you bring that, like, this is like my moment to like represent for my country, which I know that all of the girls feel that. But when it's the first time, for example, with Cuba, when we talked, I was like, I really wish Cuba would win because they haven't had a representation since the 60s or the 50s. Like, it's way back when. And that would have been, to me, like, amazing. I'm so glad that she placed top 30. In the top 30, I felt like Colombia was missing. When I looked back, I was like, because Colombia is always a very strong contender.
So strong.
I felt like, and when I saw her, I was like, you know, I would have 1000% placed her in the top 30.
And you know, she showed up with a strong interview. You know, she showed up at 100 every day as well. Yeah. She's one of the, like, Colombia in general, their girls are prepared. Just like USA, just like Puerto Rico, just like Venezuela, just like Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. Like, these girls show
there's
up.
certain countries that you know they're always going to bring it. And that, to me, was like, I don't know. But also, talking to my friend Jessica, like, I didn't know that, and I don't know if that's a thing at Universe, like, that the same panel of judges is the same for the prelim and final night.
Sometimes they change it up.
Oh, so this year it was the same, except there was 2 new people for finals.
Okay. Other interesting information. This may be a factor to placements. I'm not sure. National costume was part of the scoring for finals night.
Oh.
They've never judged national costume, and I don't think they should, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But they judged national costume as part of the scoring,
part of
that
the points
added up for who made it into finals night. And while I thought Alma looked incredible, someone pointed out on social media that, like, some of her stripes were, like, peeling off of her outfit. Like, it wasn't 100%. And if you look at Denmark, who ended up winning, she looked like she was, like, a Latina with, like, the type of outfit
she said
that
though. She said that afterwards in an interview, that she's like, I'm from Europe, I'm from Denmark. And then she's like, but I feel 100% Latina. And I was like, yes,
whatever,
get it, girl.
Get it. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I wonder if the national costume scores impacted placement.
That's interesting.
Versus just interview, swim, gown. So fun facts.
That's interesting.
Let's see, what other standout moments are, okay, I loved to see, you already mentioned her, but Macau. I just thought that was, like, so unique to see Macau place. And I've been to Macau, and I'm like, how cool
I didn't even know of this country.
Yeah.
And that's another thing.
Small. It's an island.
That's another thing that I love about pageants that a lot of people maybe don't think. Like, when you're growing up watching these pageants, it's not like just, oh, it's girls on a stage and, you know, looking pretty. No. It's also, oh, I'm learning about the world and about countries and about cultures, because through their wardrobe, through their costumes, like, they are exposing what their country is about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree.
It's a beautiful thing to see, and that happened to me this year with Macau. I was like, I didn't know
where
about
is that? They were settled by the Portuguese,
and be like, oh,
off coast of Hong Kong a bit. You can take a little speedboat out there.
That's amazing.
Ecuador was one of my favorites from before prelims, but then prelims, she did amazing. I loved watching her in the top 30. She has that, like, extra sparkle to me. She really stands out. Her face. I have a note on my phone. I'm going to have to get this screenshot up, because when we did our early prediction video before prelims, I don't think I mentioned Denmark, but she was in my screenshot. So when I was taking notes, I, like, wrote my notes for the podcast, and then I found more girls and I screenshot a whole bunch of them, and then I didn't end up saying them on camera. I'm like, no, Denmark did stand out to me from the beginning. She was a standout. Same with Ecuador. She was one of my favorites.
Yeah, and it's again, it's one of those things where, you know, a girl can have a moment that's been, like, broadcast or, like, you know, signaled out on social media where she looks amazing or it's a moment. And then she'll probably go on stage and some of the girls dim, or maybe when she did interviews, like she had a headache. Like there's so many things that go into your placing, that so many factors, that it's not just like what you see on social media or what you see on stage that night. Puerto Rico, the day before, I think it was the day before finals or the day before the semifinals, she was in the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
She was in the hospital.
I didn't know
and
that.
they had, and a couple other girls too. I don't know exactly which ones, but I know for sure Puerto Rico. And I know because her mom wrote a letter and it got released on Facebook and I saw it. And when people were criticizing her, whatever, and they're like, you don't know that she, the night before, was in the hospital, super sick, and she had to sign a waiver, like to self-release, like to be like, I will take responsibility. I'm leaving the hospital because I need to go do this. Like,
wow.
Yeah, those are the things that I feel like sometimes people at home, and
most people don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you look and you see her like shining and you're like, she's probably dehydrated. She's probably struggling like crazy, but she pulled it together. And, you know, and we'll get to that because I have my own thoughts with my own country, which is the one that I can speak to.
Yes, of course.
But yeah.
One thing I noticed in swim in top 30 was a lot of the brunettes, Latina or not, had a center part with big bouncy waves. And I think they all looked beautiful, but I love that Venezuela had the kind of half up, half down and changed up her look, because I feel like to me that made her stand out. Venezuela, Ecuador, and Denmark, I feel like were some standouts to me from before anything. And I love that she kept changing up her look. I love that.
I like that. Sometimes I don't like that because I feel like, yeah, definitely. But I feel like it's a risk because then the panel of judges can kind of lose you. And I know you've judged pageants too. I've judged pageants too. And sometimes you identify a girl because of her hair or whatever, and then you don't see her again because there's so much happening that it's a risk. It paid off for her, but it's definitely a risk to do.
I love
what
that on her.
What I suffered with her, and I know I'm getting ahead, but what I suffered with her was the fact that one, she's very well spoken.
Don't say it yet.
Ooh.
Okay, we'll get to it. We're going to get to it, you guys. We're going to take a little break. We have some like tea and things that we feel strongly about.
Yes.
We're going to talk quickly about top 12, top 5, and then winner. All right, we're going to take a little break and we'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. Melissa has some opinions that she was saying on the break. And I'm like, let's get back from the break so that we can talk about them. What are your thoughts in top 12?
Well, honestly, again, talking to my own country, because I have been a judge in Puerto Rico. We're always so strong. And it's been a couple of years since we haven't had a Puerto Rican Miss Universe after our beautiful 5 Miss Universes. And this year we were really excited with this candidate. She's a mom, like I said before, 3 kids, looked amazing, extremely well-spoken girl. When she came out in the evening gown, I'm not gonna lie, I was at a sports bar and I legit just like threw my phone on the table and was like, that's it, we're done. And it wasn't a dress that was a Miss Universe finals night gown. Like it wasn't. I saw the dress. It would have been a great dress for like a dinner, like one of their events. It would have been a great dress for that. But also having seen the gown that she wore at prelims and the gown that she wore when she got back to the hotel after prelims, that gown, that's the gown that she should have worn for the final night. It was amazing.
Okay, controversial opinion here. I
liked it?
I liked it.
No.
But I was hoping there was more of a story behind it, like Thailand had a story where
Thailand's gown was like,
I know,
amazing.
It was incredible. But with Puerto Rico, I think the story was it was inspired from a pair of shoes. right?
I'm not even sure. I was so mad about it. I didn't even like read up. But I was
listening.
like, I stopped listening
think
when
she
I saw
said it
her
was
on stage.
Inspired by a pair of shoes that she had gotten, and she worked with designers to create the dress.
The designers are amazing designers.
Right. I thought it was beautiful, but you're right. It's not a dress necessarily that you're like, if you think, will I be crowned Miss Universe in this dress?
No.
I thought it was beautiful, but if you're going with that point, is this a dress that they'll say this is what Miss Universe wears when she's crowned? Maybe not so much.
No, yeah.
I did notice she had red bottom shoes on, though. I put a note on that. I was like, "Ooh, I see
She
you."
did. No, and again, the designers were amazing. It's these two girls. They're designers. It's a Eclíptica. It's a beautiful dress. If you went in and looked at like the metal work in these flowers that she had placed in her bodice, like it was very intricate. But it just those things don't read. And the past years for the Miss Puerto Rico particularly, I've had a struggle with like the fabric that they've used because I feel that a Miss Universe should be on stage and she should look like a freaking angel, like floating on these stages. And sometimes when they use tassels or fabric that just doesn't flow and is a little more clunky, it just doesn't look as beautiful, even though the dress is like a masterpiece. And I was like, great fabric, wrong dress. Like they just needed more glam. And I think that is what cost her not moving up to the top 5. 1,000%.
Well, speaking of dresses, I had a lot of strong opinions on the colors this year. I feel like in finals, the dresses were so muted. The colors were muted for me.
Very demure.
Yeah, too demure.
Yes.
And I needed those colors to pop. These women are incredibly beautiful, and I want them to just like stand out on stage specifically. And I like feel like I'm going against my gut feeling to ever say anything critical of Venezuela because I just love her so much. But her prelims dress was this bright dress. Orange, like a rich orange. You could Google it now.
I'm gonna do that.
And it had like this extra piece that was kind of like a cape thing, and it was incredibly like striking on stage. And I thought that the actual structure, her gown for finals was beautiful. But if it was like in an emerald green, like that would have been on her skin and her face and her hair, that would have been so stunning. So I just wished there was stronger dresses. I did love Russia's evening gown. I felt like she looked expensive. I wrote down she looks royal and expensive. And then going back to more evening gown conversation, a lot of people I've seen had like criticism to say about Nigeria's dress. I think it worked for her and I think it was beautiful. But then when I saw Russia come out, I thought if you took Russia's gown and put it on Nigeria, it would have been like even more regal. I think Nigeria is just a queen. Like she was first runner up. She was there for a reason.
And she was one that I saw, like once I saw that top 12, I immediately was like, this is between Thailand, Nigeria, and Denmark. Like that's like the.
Did you say that? Let's go back to
our
text
it
messages.
was. I know Nigeria and Thailand for sure. Because then I heard, Catriona, and when she said this is between Nigeria and Thailand, I was like, yes. Like those were her top 2, as well.
Oh, you did say Nigeria and Denmark were your top 2.
Yeah. See, I'm not lying.
You also said Thailand right above that. There you go.
I did. Yes. So that's and that was from like the top 12. Like I saw them and I was like, I think the top 3 or like definitely these 3 are in the top 5.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. I also did say, I said, I love Nigeria or Denmark for the win. And then I said, but I can't understand anybody in top 5 questions. Because I was watching in Spanish and I'm like, what are they talking about? They looked confident, but okay. Final thoughts on top 12. Anything else that stood out to you or did not stand out to you?
No, I think that was it. I'm sorry. Like once I saw Puerto Rico come out in that dress, I kind of checked out. I was so mad.
I put a question mark next to her dress.
I was so mad because she was a strong candidate and she had so much to say, and that happened to me at Miss Puerto Rico, where you feel like you're a candidate that if you get the opportunity to hold a mic and answer a question, like you will shine, and that would have happened to this particular girl. And not having that opportunity because of a poor choice in gown, just it sucks and it breaks my heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. The one thing I loved, because I watched it back in English after I watched it in Spanish, Thailand. When I saw her dress and I was watching in Spanish live, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. There's probably a really cool story to it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't understand in Espanol. I was like, ¿qué? No entiendo. I don't understand what they're talking about. So it was fun to watch it back because they said that it represented a creature from like Thai mythology that was half human and half bird. And it was
she had like the wings right here.
It was royal, regal, elegant. It stood out. That's a winning dress.
That is one of the things that I absolutely adored about Thailand. One, she looked very fresh. She looked fresh. She looked like so, I don't know, like just happy, and she looked kind and like all these things. And then she had this dress that like beautiful gown, but at the same time spoke to her culture and her country and her tradition. And I love seeing those little elements.
Me too.
When girls come out on stage and they find a way, or their team finds a way to like showcase, even if, you know, just a little bit of whatever is stand out in your culture, to put it in that, because it just ties it in beautifully.
It makes it so beautiful. My last two notes on dresses, Denmark, she just looked like a Barbie in the pink. She looked so beautiful, so royal. But I loved Canada's dress. I did think it was wearing her a little bit. It was such this big presence. And I think if she was a little bit taller, it would have looked like it fit her a little bit better. Yeah. But the color and the style was beautiful, and she carried it well. It's just like it was so much stage presence for that dress.
There's certain dresses. Mexico's dress was a dress that you needed like so much stage, like you needed to be big, personality wise, and like tall to carry that dress. If not,
and it needed to have more color for me. Yes. Like I know everybody loved it. I loved it too. I love the style of it, but make it like a blue, a green, orange, a red,
a bright
Mexico.
Pop. Like a bright pop. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, top 5.
It was Thailand, Nigeria, Denmark.
Mexico and Venezuela.
Mexico and Venezuela. I was happy with the top 5.
I was so happy with the top 5, you guys.
And that rarely happens to where like it's like, okay, that's a good selection.
Often when top 5 is called, I'm like, why didn't so and so make
over
it?
so and so?
Right. This top 5, every single contestant was so strong. Yes. And I love that it was a very diverse top 5. It wasn't all Latinas. It wasn't all Asians. It wasn't all anything. It was a variety. Like we got to see like the beauty of the universe. We got to see so much different beauty all in top 5.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it. I loved when they did their question. Now can I say what I wanted to say?
Tell us. Okay. We got some strong opinions, and I feel the same way, except I didn't understand.
Look, Venezuela, going back to her, she beautiful girl, very well spoken. Whoever hired that translator needed to be fired. Like
gone.
She needed to be fired because she effed up Venezuela's opportunity.
I agree.
And she completely, I don't know, I mean, she came out late on stage.
She was late. Venezuela was standing there so composed. Waiting
for the
her
translator. Yeah. So it's like when you're at that stage, and then the translator, I don't know if like she didn't really hear the question that the judge, gave her. The question
was being asked while she was backstage still.
Right. And it was on both occasions. Like it wasn't just the first time when they got different questions from the judge panel. On both occasions, this translator changed the question on Venezuela, and it made
the question or changed the answer?
Both.
Okay.
But mainly changed the question because when she changed the question, then Venezuela answered what she was given, but that wasn't what the judge had asked. So it looks like she didn't answer the question that she was given, but it wasn't her fault at all.
The translator should be fired.
It was the translator's fault. Yeah. And it was so frustrating because here this like beautiful girl, so very well spoken, because what she answered was beautiful and eloquent and correct to what she was wrongly asked by her translator. And that's just so disappointing because, and she took it well. Afterwards, I saw an interview, I don't remember where, but she was like, well, it's like she played the game and she was graceful at that point. Like, what can you do? But dang, like because I was watching in Spanish, I did not understand anybody's questions or answers. So when Venezuela was called first out of top 5, like as 4th runner-up, you didn't understand why. I was like, what is happening? Because I've seen all of her competition. I've seen her do interviews. I know that she's well-spoken, even if I don't understand what she's saying. Right.
And she's
that
gorgeous.
And also, mind you, that I think as a judge, when you're sitting there, granted, you're hearing the question and you know that she didn't answer the question, but I mean, you know, you're seeing what's happening and like you're seeing it. So I feel that that they should have just gone off like her response, even if she didn't respond to what she was asked, because it wasn't her fault. And that sucked for her. Yeah. I wouldn't have like let her go as fourth runner up either. Like I would have put her above, I mean, probably above Mexico. I would have put Venezuela above Mexico.
I would have as well.
Yeah. I think I would have changed the order, but then Mexico is hosting country. So that also has a little bit of weight, although it necessarily shouldn't. I don't think so.
So my dad has this top 5 theory, and I don't remember exactly what it is. I'm going to have to go back to my old videos when it had been freshly told to me. But he has this like structured theory of where everybody stands in top 5 and what their scores are going into top 5. And I believe that it's the person standing in the middle has the highest score, which was Denmark going into top 5. And then going into top 5, according to my dad's theory, if I remember properly, the person all the way to the right, which was Venezuela, has the second highest score. Oh. And the person all the way to the left has the third highest score. So according to my dad's theory, going into top 5 before anyone answered questions, it was Denmark, Venezuela, Nigeria as the top 3 highest scores. But then you do your answers and then you do your final walk and then they put the scores in.
Wow, that's interesting.
Interesting because he's literally watched so many Miss Universes and he's seen how they place and what people end up winning.
So analytical of your dad.
Very much so.
Because I don't think I ever pay attention to where they're standing. I was just like, but it's so analytical and who knows? Like,
well, because I think it was my year. Columbia was standing in the middle and she won. And I was standing on the far right and I got first runner up. But it was not just my year. This is based off of like many years.
So he's seen a pattern. He's spotted a pattern.
He sees a pattern.
That's interesting.
But I don't really have that many other thoughts on top 5. I think overall everybody was pretty well spoken. I think they did a really good job. There was no viral YouTube moments. No. I thought it was really good.
I think out of the top 5, if I had to pick like one girl who answered both times well, it was Thailand. I think Thailand was the one who both in judge question and that like same question that they give all the girls, I feel like she was the one who best answered both times. Because there was other girls when they were asked the judge question, they were kind of iffy. Most of them answered pretty well the same question part. Yeah. But yeah, I think Thailand. That's why I was like, it's Thailand. It's 1000% Thailand. Like it's like that's the winner. Or if it's Thailand and Nigeria, like those are going to be hand in hand. And I mean, but also when Denmark answered her last question, and this is a thing that I feel that I've seen. I saw it when Dana Mendoza won. I saw it when I don't remember what year it was that Australia won Universe. The girl that she very much looked like a surfer. I loved her.
Jen Hawkins.
Yes, her. I feel that Denmark was in the moment. She was having fun, and she was just like taking it all in real time. Like she wasn't being posy. She was legitimately like excited and like just having the time of her life on that stage. And I feel like that always translates into a good outcome because that will feed the judges, and like you'll be sitting there and you're like, oh my God, she's having so, and you just give her great.
Exactly. And the judges see her and all the other girls on commercial break. So if on commercial break you're sitting there and you're holding your hands tight and you're like, just trying to breathe, or if you're just like soaking in the audience. And, like I was told when I won Miss USA by Rumor Willis, one of my judges, Bruce Willis's daughter, she said, you were the only one having fun on stage. And on commercial breaks, I wish someone had a video. Like my family had these like light up glow sticks that they were like moving to the music, and I was over here like dancing with my family, like matching their glow sticks, like shimmying, like just having. I was present and I was having fun, and I think that's very true. It seemed like Denmark was doing the same, while also being composed. It seemed like she was just fully present.
I think so.
One other thing that I noticed, and now I'm like, need to add this to my very intentional like coaching repertoire. And I've heard this also from Erwin McManus recently. So it's kind of just been like circling in my mind at Erwin McManus's pastor at the church that I go to and that Melissa used to go to. And he has described how he can be giving the same message or the same story,
The same talk.
the same talk. But if he's talking to one person or he's talking to 20 people or if he's talking to 5,000 people, the way that you present it is different, even if the context is the same. So something I noticed about Denmark and a few of the other countries is they had this energy that they were just putting out a strong, powerful, confident energy when they were speaking versus other girls were talking more as if they were talking to a room of 10 people versus 10,000. So I think the energy on stage also can be contagious.
Well, that is what's called stage presence, right? And that is something that you need to have. Like if you're going to be a public figure, if you're going to be in the public eye, you need to have that kind of commanding stage presence. And that's exactly what that is because you need to attract eyeballs and you need to be able to keep people's eyes on you to where they listen to what you have to say.
And Denmark obviously did that because she won. I'm very happy for her.
Beautiful girl. Captivating.
Absolutely captivating. First blonde in 20 years since Jen Hawkins, the Australian that you mentioned. And Jen Hawkins was more of like a dirty blonde, kind of beachy kind of girl.
That's like, she looked like a surfer to me.
Yes,
so
totally. And so this is like European blonde. It's been quite some time since we've had that. I'm very happy for her. I believe she's 21, so like very young. It is very demanding being Miss Universe, only knowing from having lived with 2 Miss Universes. But now I feel like it's even more demanding. I remember when Arbany was Miss Universe, Miss USA that won Miss Universe a few years ago. And I would, periodically check in with her and she did great and she knew what was coming and she was ready for it. But there was many times like, are you holding up okay? Like, I know it's exhausting. It's nonstop. You sometimes don't get moments to yourself. And so this is going to be a very busy year. They say more so than the last few years.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for her and I can't wait to see her continue to shine.
I'm excited for her too. I want to ask you a question because I want to hear what your thoughts are on this new reality that is, have you heard about it?
Tell me.
The new reality that Telemundo, which is the host of that they showcase Miss Universe. They're doing a new reality and that
new reality show
based on Miss Universe. And basically the prize is that the girl who wins gets a straight pass to the Miss Universe to compete at Miss Universe. And it is for your producer's like, it's for Latinas in the United States. It's like Miss, and her title is going to be Miss Latina USA. What are your thoughts on that, Nia Sanchez?
You had to say my last name too. Nia Sanchez being one of the only now, I think 6 Miss USAs of any like Latin descent. By the time it was me, there was only 4 Latinas that had ever been a Miss USA. Before I won,
Susie was
one as well, who was like 11 years before me, I think. So before I won Miss USA, there was, in like the 2 or 3 years before I won, conversations about that. They wanted to have a Latina USA title because the Latin community in the US is so big and was like, we don't have representation. No one of a Latin background is winning Miss USA because again, it had been over 10 years. And so there were conversations about that. And I think those conversations died down once I won. And then also, I think maybe if there has not been a Latina since me, maybe that makes sense. But the current Miss USA is Afro-Latina. And Noelia is Venezuelan, Latina, like a Venezuelan American. She's Latina. So I don't actually think it's relevant or needed, but I think for the Latin community, it's a great thing. But it's like, I don't know. I think I see both sides because it's like, what if Miss USA is Latina and then Miss USA Latina is also like, like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's,
I see it from a business point of view. We talked about this on my last Miss Universe episode. If we're talking about business, this is great for business.
1,000%. Yeah. Like you get way more girls, you get way more eyes. But yeah, it is like an iffy, road to navigate, I feel. Because technically there would be like 2 Miss USAs competing. Right. On that note, I'm like, I don't know. Also, I'm also of the side where like in Puerto Rico, we've had girls, like, for example, Madison Anderson, that lived in the United States, competed in multiple pageants in the United States. And because she has family members that are Puerto Rican, she went and competed at Miss Puerto Rico and won. And a lot of people in Puerto Rico had issue with that. And I'll straight up say it. Like, I had an issue with that because I didn't feel that she represented people from my island.
From the island.
Yeah. Right. She would have been great for a Miss Latina USA because, you know, but to Madison, like, she did an amazing job. Yeah, she placed first runner-up, and she won over a lot of the Puerto Rican people because she put in the work.
She did
to do
the time,
so.
The work, the effort.
She put in the work to do so, and I will not take that away from her. But yeah, like, I feel like in these Hispanic countries, there's so much beauty that you don't necessarily need to go out and look. And again, I will talk for Puerto Rico. There are so many beautiful girls, so many capable, like, talented girls that could make it, like a Zuleika Rivera, like a Denise Quiñones, like a Dayanara Torres, which are three of our, you know, Miss Universes, born and raised in Puerto Rico, girls from very, like, humble backgrounds and beginnings, and they're, you know, they connect with the people, and I feel like that connection lacked a little bit, you know, and will lack if that is there. So I feel like this is a good way for that kind of representation. Yeah. And I also get the people that are Latinos that live in the United States that might not feel represented by a girl who doesn't know their culture, or, like, doesn't know, you know, they migrated into the States and maybe they don't live in their country of origin, but it's like they're yes and they're both, right? So this Latina USA would be a representation for them, and I totally understand.
It kind of
that
bridges
as well.
a gap a bit there.
Yeah, but it is a hard road to navigate because there are pros and cons on both sides.
I see both. Now, do you know about the last, like, overall thought kind of thing? Do you know about the Continental Queens, and how do you feel about it?
Okay, I saw a picture of the Miss Universe of Denmark with all these other girls. This is a thing that's done at the Miss Grand, at the Miss International. They give like princess titles or like other titles. I don't necessarily like it for Universe. It's a new thing that because I've seen it in these other pageants, I'm like, I don't need it at the Universe stage. I feel like Miss Universe is Miss Universe, and that it should be one and done. Like, you don't need a little, like, you don't need a court. You don't need a court. That's my opinion. Okay. But
I love it, and I think, obviously, we talked about this so much in, like, the last pageant podcast, but it is a business, and
of course,
so, like, if you have an Asian representative and, like, Asian Pacific representative that is traveling and doing, like, PR and media and, like, promoting the organization in that region, and then you have an African representative, and then you have the European representative in the Americas, like, you are getting, like, more bang for your buck business wise because you have people continually, like, promoting your business.
Here is my question, though. Will that take away from the countries that the Miss Universe actually gets to visit, because there's already representation doing that tour, so to say, in that area?
I don't think so, because they did, I feel like it was almost a trial version when Arbany won Miss USA or Miss Universe, because when she won Miss Universe, her top 5, or maybe it was 3 or 4 of the top 5, traveled with her for the first like 2 months. And, like, that's hard. I would imagine that would be hard as a Miss Universe, because you feel like you're still competing, but you won the job.
Right.
So I can see that side of things as well. But she, obviously, they would dress her, say, like, in gold, and everybody else in, like, white or black or, like, something different. So, like, she stood out in the group photos and moments. But yeah, I feel like they already did a trial version, and it was good in the fan bases, like, especially, like, the Latin fan bases, the Asian fan bases, to have someone else to continue to cheer on. I think the pageant fans are so loyal that whomever is the Miss Universe is, like, their number one, and then they'll also cheer on the additional queens.
Yeah,
so
no, that for
I'm
sure.
I
feel like the fan base is so strong that they'll give them something to cheer about. They're gonna cheer about it, you know, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm like, I don't know.
It's not for you.
Because I've seen it at other pageants that aren't, like, to me, Miss Universe is like, it's like the epitome, like, it's
the top of the top.
The pageant, you know, like, I don't need it at that stage.
Yeah.
because I've seen it at these other, they're not lower pageants. They're not Miss Universe.
They're not Miss Universe.
You know,
Miss
like
Universe
any
is the
girl
number
that
one.
goes into pageants, her aim is obviously to get to the Miss Universe stage. That is like the top number one place to be, right? For that.
You're here, you get something.
You know,
you did well.
Like when you run for the turkey and you get like the second runner up, like the little sash thing. Like, you got a sash.
Speaking of turkey, happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
This is coming out the day before Thanksgiving. We have so much to be grateful for.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to wrap up today's episode. I know there's so much more we can talk about. I'm sure you guys have tons of questions. So leave comments on Instagram, YouTube. Obviously,
Be nice.
Be nice to us because we did our very best. And I know there's things we forgot or maybe opinions you don't agree with.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's
you don't
okay.
have to agree with everything. Just be kind in your disagreement.
Yeah.
But we love you. Thank you for listening. I'm sure probably half of you at least are listening. Some of you are watching on YouTube. So thank you for listening to the Hold My Crown podcast. Thank you, Melissa, for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure you subscribe, like, click, follow, all of the things, and share as well so that other friends can hang out with us on the Hold My Crown podcast.
Yeah.
Have a great day, you guys. Bye.
Yay Media Group.